Order, and want to thank everyone for being here today. I guess the first item of business would be superintendent's comments.
Just the only thing I'm going to say today, I'm going to wait to the July meeting. Most likely, I will be coming to you to at least look at a change of a date to a later date for school to start. We're getting closer, but I want to wait a couple more weeks for us to get more information. But it does look like the August 5th may be just a little too early for us, so I will probably come to you with a later date at that time.
All right, thank you. Mm-hmm. Is that all at this time, Mr. Burrow?
Yeah, this time, yes. I said a whole lot on the last week, so and the paper put a lot out there for us, so and they did a good job. McLean County News, if you're listening, good article for the people. So that I'll have more information in a couple weeks. So when our next meeting is.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess be approval of individual action items, and the first thing, Mr. Burrow, be approve June 18th special call board meeting.
I recommend we approve the June 18th special call board meeting.
Is there any discussion on this?
Looks good to me. Bumpus.
It's
All right,
fine. Looks good, Wendell.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right, well, with that recommendation, Mr. Burrow?
I recommend we approve it.
Okay, recommendation made to approve it. Okay, all in favor say yes.
Well, we have to have a motion.
Oh, sorry.
So moved.
Who'll make that motion? I'm sorry, I'm getting in a hurry. Sorry.
We're hungry.
I made it.
All right, Mr. Riggs. And second?
Second, Ms. Sutton.
All right, Ms. Sutton. All right. Now, all signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? Thank you. And thank you all for pointing that out. Keep me straight. Consider approval of the bills. And I haven't had an opportunity to look at them yet, so.
I haven't either, so let's take time.
Mm-hmm.
What is PSST? I just don't know what that is. I don't.
That's number 65.
Yeah.
PSST is the software that we use. It's an annual cost for our W-2s, printing checks, and doing direct deposit advices.
Oh,
It's
okay.
part of our accounting software.
Okay. I just didn't know what it was.
I thought it was.
It only shows up once a year, so.
Okay. I just kind of like those initials, so that's.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
in a year's time, most of the time we forget, so I had to be reminded every year.
No problem. It's understood.
I'm good.
All right, Ms. Bumpus?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right,
Me
Mr.
too.
Howard?
Just finished up.
I'm
All
good.
right. All right, then, everything looks good. Final one for this fiscal year. All right. Mr. Burrow, would you make a recommendation?
I recommend we pay the final bills of the fiscal year 1920.
All right. Thank you. All right, with the recommendation made, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Oh, go ahead, John.
No, it'd be fine. Anybody.
Yeah, I don't care.
Mr. John, I'll keep you on as making the motion. Ms. Bumpus, you second?
Second.
All right. If no other discussion on this, then I'll signify by saying yes.
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 No? All right, yeses have it. Thank you. Now then, next thing would be consider approval of emergency reading of policy 08.12. Mr. Burrow.
Well, the one above it is the procedures. We got one above.
Oh, I'm sorry.
See,
I checked it too quick.
It's okay. What C is for C and D go together. We have forms that we will use for the I guess people applying to go to our alternative school, and I just put them into the KSBA and to make the procedure. So the first one is a procedure according to the law. The board members, all they have to do is a reading on the procedure, do one reading. So this is just a reading of our forms and how if you have them right there or you see them, if you want them, I give to you. They're just how you apply to come to the MAC, and some of them already there. You just basically added up our forms to it. That would be just a first reading. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to ask you, but I just want to put them through KSBA to make sure we had them in our policies and procedures.
All right, thank you. And excuse me, that was C, approval of review alternative education procedures and forms. All right, any discussion or anyone have any questions on it? Hearing none, Mr. Burrow, would you make a recommendation?
I recommend we approve the reading of our procedures and our forms from our MAC Center 09.4341 AP21.
All right, thank you. Heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion, Ms. Sutton.
Ms. Sutton, thank you. And now second.
Second, Riggs.
All right, Mr. Riggs, thank you. If no other discussion, I'll signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? No. Okay, yeses have it. Now then, we'll go down to D, consider approval of emergency reading of policy 08.12.
Yes, what this is, Mr. Miller, is basically, it's our own policy. We already had 08.12, but since we are adding an alternative school, it names that the district has an elementary, middle, high, and now an alternative school. They just added the word alternative school to our list. So under the policy 08.12, we added the word. We have a alternative school in McLean County.
All right.
Good.
And I recommend to approve this policy. It's emergency reading. We don't have to have two because our district does allow have emergency readings when we need them. Instead of have two readings, this is emergency because we're getting ready to have an alternative school. They're just adding a name to this one. So
All right. All right. Thank you. All right. Recommendation?
He made it.
Oh, he made, okay. Consider, let's see, have a recommendation. Excuse me, you have a motion?
I make it a motion. We approve it.
All right, Ms. Bumpus, thank you. Second?
I'll second Ms. Sutton.
Ms. Sutton, all right. No other discussion, signify by saying yes.
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 No? All right, and then let me check these as I go so I don't get on the wrong line. Consider approval of 2020-21 MCPS handbook. Mr. Troutman.
Yes, sir. We do have, we met with the handbook committee one day last week. Mr. Quisenberry was there. There are some changes to the handbook. It is on the attachment if you want to open that up. Do you want me to point out the four changes, or have you also had a chance to view it?
I can't get mine to open, but I think if the committee reviewed it, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, I
What's
think,
the summary of the changes, Mr. Troutman? Can you do that briefly?
Sure can. Christy, can you throw that up on the screen, the handbook? Know exactly what pages they are, and I'll point them out to you because they're highlighted in yellow. Okay, it looks like she's pulling it up. Okay, so the first edition, Mr. Quisenberry had the idea. It's on the bottom of page 2. Says because of the existing state of emergency due to the coronavirus that we're in, this code of handbook is subject to change. In the event of changes, we will continue to strive to give you as much notice as possible. But the overriding goal is protection of our students and staff. So he felt like under the circumstances we're in, he wanted to include that statement. On page 8 is the next change. And this change is for guests entering the building. We've just never had a statement that points this out. These are practices that we've been doing, but with the change of Senate Bill 1 last year requiring people to show photo ID, that for some of our guests that didn't go over real well, but they did that anyway. However, we wanted to put that in there. Talking about guests entering the building, you can see what this is. Talks about that they need to enter the main entrance. They buzz in, they identify their who they are and the purpose of their visit. It talks about once they get access inside the school that they should go to the front office, provide valid identification, and then they talks about them wearing the visitor's badge. So a lot of that are things we already did. We just didn't have it in the handbook, so the committee wanted to add that in there. On page 10 will be a change, and that is
just a moment, Mr. Troutman. On that other one, are they going to be required to check their temperature also when they come in?
Under the guidelines right now, yes, anyone entering inside the school is going to have a temperature check.
Okay, I just didn't see it in there, but I guess that's an extra emergency or something. Okay, just clarifying that. Thank you.
Page 10, after this board meeting, I think you all will, at some point, there could be some changes to lunch prices. So this is last year's lunch prices, so I'll wait till after this board meeting, and David or Melody will let me know what, if they stay the same or not. So I know I've got to come in here to the lunch prices and possibly change that. And then on page 28 is our last change. It talks about people checking in or checking out their child. So we just added a small little there, not to rewrite what we did on page 8, but you can see in yellow there where it says after they come to the front office and show a valid photo ID. So we wanted to include that in there as well. So Mr. Riggs, those are the 4 quick changes that we have. Everything else is identical to last year's handbook.
Thank you very much. Looks good.
So
On the photo ID, now, if it's people they know, are they still required to show that ID?
Yes.
Like a driver's license or whatever?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That is,
Even if they're-
that is our state safety marshal regulation and from the state. They will check that they will come in and try to trick our secretaries to not let someone show their ID. So I think that happened already through our first initial, what was it, Mr. Troutman, what was it called? Our walkthrough for the first time with the state. So yes, it don't matter if you're your brother, they better show it because they're gonna. That's a thing they're looking for.
All right.
You know more about that, Mr. Troutman. You went through the walkthrough, so.
And it's exactly what you just said, Mr. Burrow. On a random day, our security marshal will come. This past year, he announced the days, but this year to be unannounced. And that's exactly what he does. Just what Mr. Burrow said. He'll stand there long enough at the front door to see how our office people are buzzing people in. And, you know, Senate Bill 1 says it'll show photo ID, and it's regardless if it's your next door neighbor and you've known them for 50 years, they're supposed to show a valid photo ID. So he follows that law to the letter. So
Is that a photo ID at the camera?
Once they come inside.
Okay.
Now that's just if they're leaving the office area.
Okay.
Or checking their child out.
Sure. Okay.
Drop off lunch. They don't, but yeah.
Mr. Troutman, does that also include our superintendent and the central office personnel?
We do unless we have our.
Since I've been here, I've signed in and showed my ID every single time. If you can ask Mr. Troutman, I get on him every time when he don't.
Any person, I was curious because I never have.
I have had to show mine when I checked my son out of school. Yes, I have.
None of the board luncheons that before did I. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
you're not, I thought if you were, they've only made me do it when I was signing out my child, but they've not made me show an ID.
Okay.
I wear my badge with my picture on it, so I already got mine around my neck, so that I'm showing it every time.
All right. Okay, so is there any other discussion on it? Thank you, Mr. Troutman. If no other discussion, Mr. Burrow, would you make a recommendation?
I recommend we approve the 2021 MCPS handbook.
All right, heard a recommendation. I'll signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Well, don't
No.
we have to have a motion to
Yeah.
approve it?
Thank you, Ms. Bumpus. Goodness. Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, a second.
Second, Miss Sutton.
All right, Ms. Sutton, thank you very much. Glad all of y'all are taking care of me. All signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Opposed? Nope. All right, approved 5-0. Next thing would be back for Mr. Troutman again, consider approval of principals' supervision plans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Miller, members of the board, you should have each school's supervision plan. That's just per our policy. It says that the principals will turn in a plan for supervising students from the time they get to the school to the time they leave. And that plan you should have attached for each school. I don't mind to go over those, but basically it talks about who's doing cafeteria duty and who does hallway duty, and each school actually puts a teacher's name on who's doing the supervision.
And later on, I will be giving y'all a reopening plan for the district because of the COVID-19. And it will have some additional items for supervision, what they'll have to do because the testing of the temperatures and everything else. But that will come in later on. This is just their plan to start right now at the basic. Then we'll give the principals the additional reopening plans that they'll add to these supervision plans that will be approved by you all in the health department later on this summer.
All right.
All right.
Any more questions? All right. If not, Mr. Burrow?
I recommend that we approve the principal supervision plans.
All right. Heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion, Miss Sutton.
Okay, Ms. Sutton, have a second.
Second.
All right, Ms. Bumpus, thank you. Okay, all in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Opposed? No? All right. Thank you. And I think, Mr. Troutman, you have one more, I believe. Or is that one you're going to wait on?
No, I mean, it's listed under my name. So
Okay,
yeah, the school fees.
yes.
Of course, all the fees that a school charges per Red Book, the board is supposed to approve. So each school has provided you all with a breakdown of their fees, anything that they would be charging. I just happened to pull the high schools up, and I mean, it's from gate admission to ball games to yearbook prices to dues for clubs, textbook fees. Each school has an attachment in the e-meeting of their school fees.
Yeah, when we get home, we'll be able to look this up online, won't we?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Is there any new additional fees that somebody wanted what we didn't have last year, Mr. Troutman?
No, to my knowledge, no principal shared with me anything that was going to be a new fee.
Good.
All right. Sounds very good. All right. Mr. Burrow,
I recommend we approve the school fees.
recommendation to approve the school fees. Motion?
Motion.
All right, Ms. Bumpus, thank you. Second?
I'll second. Go ahead, Mr. Howard.
It doesn't matter.
Mr. Howard, take you. Hadn't heard from you in a little bit. A second from Mr. Howard. If no other discussion, I'll signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Opposed? 5-0. All right, and the last one in this, this part, approve district to offer community eligibility provision. Mr. Burrell and Mr. Stokes.
Well, I'll just start out. I want to let you know, Mr. Stokes has been I guess last year when I came in 2 years ago, this is one of the things I kind of wanted to look at, and I've been having a lot of communication with community on this, is when we're going to have the CEP programs for feeding our kids, and the kids get to eat free breakfast and lunch in our school. Well, Mr. Stokes has been working tirelessly. When I say tirelessly, I don't get up at 3 a.m. a lot, but he's been up working on numbers, and last night, this morning, he's still working numbers. And I think we got some good news, and I'm going to let Mr. Stokes share this with you. Melody Chelstrom has been working on this, but Mr. Stokes, would you like to share to the board and to the community with some good news for you?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Burrow. What we'd like to recommend to the board is offering CEP to our elementary schools and our middle schools. What CEP is, the community eligibility provision, is where our students do not pay for their for the first, the basic tray to eat in our schools. It doesn't mean that we get free food. We still have to pay the same amount for all the meals that we're paying for. It's just the funding source is a little bit different. They fund on certified students that have been identified. Our numbers this year are up enough to where we feel comfortable that we can use the formula to cover the costs for the meals so that the students do not have to pay for our elementary and for our middle. We have been close before on elementary, but this is the highest our middle school numbers have been since this program has been available. So what they do is they take your percentage and multiply it by a factor, and that's how many meals that they will reimburse you at a paid rate, at the free rate, excuse me. Well, this year, our elementaries are going to get close to the middle 90s. So that's amazing. And if we lock this rate in this year, then we'll get it for 4 years.
That's awesome.
Our middle school's ISP, which is your identified student percentage, is 52.49. So basically 52.5. If I multiply that by 1.6, that gives us 84% of the meals that the middle school served will get the high reimbursement on. So I've run, as Mr. Burrow said, I've probably run this 100 times. And about 50, I get where we lose a little money at the middle school, and about 50, I get that we break even or make just a little, come ahead just a little bit. But we feel like even if we lose a little bit, it's worth it to offer the meals for our students.
That's correct.
Now, our high school numbers are they're in the 40s. They're not anywhere near we're probably looking at losing 60 grand a year to offer it to our high school right now. So while we want to offer it to every school, I feel like I can make it work as long as the principals work with us and work with Melody on, maybe some different thinking on how we run through our lines and how we're serving food. But I'm sure our principals want our kids thinking about instruction instead of hungry bellies. So I feel like, we've got a great team here, and this is just going to be something, if the board approves it, that we can, it's something we've been wanting to do for a decade. But I feel like we can make it work for our preschool through 8th grade.
I'm all for it.
And we will be looking to move to the high school when the numbers are right. And
That's great. That's great. Yep. Had a lot of complaints while we weren't doing it when other districts were, but the count had to be right, of course.
Yes. And for example, we have 2 elementary schools. 62.5s is the number you really want to get towards, because that's when you get almost everything paid at the high rate. We have one at 61 and one at 63. But last year, those 2 schools were both 50 and 56. So they were not even close to where we are this year. And that's why we just have not been able to make it work. And once we lock these rates in, we get them for 4 years.
That's good.
That's all.
Yes. All right. Is there any other discussion?
Mm-mm.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Stokes.
personally, for Mrs. Sutton, I think one of the most important things we can do for our children is feed them so they can learn.
That's right. That's right. Get a good meal.
That's right.
All right. With that said, no one else have anything else? All right, Mr. Burrow.
I recommend to approve that our district to offer the community eligibility provision, the CEP program, to our kids at the elementary and middle school to eat free.
All right. Who would like to make a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Ms. Bumpus, you have a
Now,
second?
we're looking at Miss Sutton.
All right, Ms. Sutton. Thank you. Okay. There's no other discussion. I'll signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And nays? All right, 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Stokes.
Thank you.
All right, and our next thing would be consider approval of McLean County High School Assistant Athletic Director. Mr. Burrow.
For us to have a position, and we have to have it on the salary schedule, and on the amended salary schedule, we're going to split the stipend between 2 people, and basically add $500 more to equal out what we need. But it just to have more supervision at ball games, because our AD went to assistant principal. He's still going to be AD, but we needed to have some more help. So we're just going to keep the stipend and split it and make an assistant athletic director. And I recommend that we add this to the salary schedule for the high school.
All right. Any comments, anyone?
Do we know who that position's going to be?
That'll be hired they can't hire until we have a position. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the principal will hire that position. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, recommendation, Mr. Burrow, I suppose.
Yep. Recommend we approve the high school assistant athletic director.
All right. Have a motion for that.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Riggs, second.
Second.
Mr. Howard, thank you. All right, no other discussion. I'll signify by saying yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, yes has it. 5-0. All right, the next thing is consider approval of amended 2021 salary schedule.
And once again, David and we talk every year about what some of the things we want to change in the salary schedule and what we want to do. I will let David tell you the numbers here in a minute, but we are very pleased that everything we really wanted to do this year, we're put it in the salary schedule. Number one, we want to thank the teachers. We want to thank staff, administrators. We're pleased to announce that we are able to put a 1% raise for every staff member this year. And that was something that we want to do, and also that was for recruiting, retaining our people to try to keep getting closer. Not many other districts around here, haven't heard anybody giving a raise. We're trying to inch our way there. Also, we want to bring in people. We want to recruit new teachers to come to our county. We have a small county, which is great for learning, great for getting to know people. A lot of people would love to be here. So we want to bring in some new teachers that maybe would look at the salary schedule across around us. So we, on top of that 1%, in the first 4 years of a rank 3, which is a new teacher coming out of college, we added $500-600 to each of that level to move that salary up to get closer to the surrounding counties, so we can recruit people to come to our county, because we have a wonderful district, and we're getting closer. And that's the two main things, and some minor tweaks here and there on the salary schedule. So I'm recommending to approve the amended salary schedule, so we could give the due to our staff for previous year and this year coming up. We don't know what's going to be like next year. I have no idea it doesn't look good for us, what we can do for next year, but we can this year. And I want to put it out there to help make sure they understand we appreciate you, and we thank you for all you've done and going to do.
And you said the new teacher raise would be $500?
$500 to $600. We're getting it close up to $36,000 to start out, and where that's $3,000 less than Davis, but we have a smaller county and more help for each kid, and we just have a great family atmosphere here, and that's what we want to do, is get closer. People want to come here.
All right. Does sound good. All right, and you've already made a recommendation. Is there any discussion, any board member?
I don't think anybody's going to dispute the need, but our folks do with less, but we do the same job they're doing all around us. And it's a shame that we can't compensate them at a competitive level. And I think this 1% is a positive step in that direction. And I'd like to thank Mr. Burrow and Mr. Stokes for their efforts.
Yes, definitely.
Agreed. I just noticed that there wasn't an attachment with that either.
Yes, we will put it on the webpage within a week for everybody to see. We just want to make sure all of that, we got our numbers all right and everything. Mr. Stokes, do you want to share on that part when?
Yeah, I'll have it to Mr. Bowman probably by the end of today, and hopefully maybe he can have it on the website by the end of this week. I don't want to rush him. I know he's got a big project going on right now, but.
Right. Is there any way that we could get just us get like a paper copy? Because I keep notes in a notebook of everything we do. So I just would like to have a paper copy of that.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. After hearing the recommendation and hearing the information, someone make a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Riggs?
Second, Ms. Sutton.
All right, Ms. Sutton. All signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I hear any no's? Apparently not. Thank you. All right. Next is consider approval of the GASB 54.
Mr. Stokes, you want to share with GASB 54?
Yes, GASB is an acronym for Governmental Accounting the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They issue statements that kind of govern over how we present our information in our audit. So this is part of the audit process to where we restrict some of our funds. For example, we restrict some funds for carryover ADA for our schools, and we restrict $300,000 for bus purchases over the next 4 or 5 years. And we also have some funds restricted for paving and sealing our parking lots over the next 4 or 5 years. So this is just a process of our audit and how out of our fund balance where we're restricting some of our funds. It's something we do every year in June, and I'd like the board to approve this, please.
All right.
There should be an attachment that shows the balances that we're talking about.
Okay.
or I can see the attachment.
All right. Does anyone need to see that?
No, sir.
No.
All righty. All right. Oh, Mr. Burrow?
I recommend that we approve the GASB 54.
All right. Heard the recommendation. Someone make a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, Mrs. Sutton.
All right, Ms. Sutton, thank you. Have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Howard, thank you. No other discussion. I'll signify by saying yes.
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 No?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. 5-0. All right. Consider approval of bank agreement. Mr. Stokes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board. I'd like to present to you the bank agreement from Independence Bank. It is the same agreement that we've had for several years. The difference is the floor has dropped a little bit. So they offer us Fed funds plus 10, which means if the federal rate's 2%, we get 2.1 on our checking. However, the federal rate is just about 0 right now. So this agreement has a floor of 0.75. It's a little under 1%. I've checked with about 60 other districts, and they're all between 0.5 and a few have 1. But I felt this was fair. It's still, we can offer the agreement offers free checking to all our employees and a courier service that picks up our deposits.
All right.
And no fees. We pay no fees for stop checks or NSFs or anything like that. So it's a fair agreement. Independence Bank does a lot for our community, and they do a lot for our schools, and I have appreciated working with them. And I would like to present this to the board. Every 2 years, you have to approve your bank, and then annually, you have to approve a bond for that bank. So that would be the next item.
All right. All right. Thank you. Any questions or anything from anyone? Okay, if not, Mr. Burrow?
I recommend we approve the bank agreement, bank agreement.
Yeah, bank agreement. Heard the recommendation on the bank agreement. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
All right, Ms.
Second.
Bumpus. Second,
Second.
Mr. Riggs, thank you. All of those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? All right. The yeses have it, 5-0. All right, let's see. Consider approval of bond of depository. Mr. Stokes.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. So the depository is our bank. That's where we deposit our funds. It's a KDE requirement and it's a good one, that they have. It's basically a bond to cover our deposits. Well, our bank does collateral for 103% of our average. What that means is that they cover us more than 100% of what we have in the bank with collateral. That protects the funds since they're public funds. And the form just states it, and it's signed off by one of the high-ups in the bank, Mr. Todd Schweitzer.
Okay. Sounds very good on it. Like I said, I forget about that one every year too.
It is an annual requirement.
Right.
But this form shows that we're complying, and if the board approves this, I will submit it to KDE as soon as this meeting's over through the Seek Data submission web portal.
And I have the form that Mr. Wendell, you and I will sign if this is approved.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Do I hear a recommendation?
I recommend we approve the bond of depository.
All right. Second? Or a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Second?
Second, Miss Sutton.
All right, Ms. Sutton, thank you very much. All right. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? No. So another 5-0. Thank you. All right. Consider approval of the FRC budget amendment. Ms. Sherry.
Ms. Turley, you there?
I can speak to it, Mr. Burrow, if you would like.
Okay, some people may not have the mics on.
The Frisky grants require both the Family Resource Center and Youth Service Center. Their spending has to be within 10% of their budget. And so obviously due to this pandemic, the spending changed a little bit. So we're just doing a budget amendment to comply with the regulations of the grant. And that there's no change in money. We're just saying instead of sending the kids on a trip and paying for it, instead we bought supplies because there was no travel. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's similar to what we're doing here.
All right. All right.
No more money was spent.
Thank
It's just
you.
spent in a different category.
Hey, Gary.
Oh,
Sorry, I couldn't get my mic turned on.
that's all right. Thank you, though. We'll go ahead and vote on it. Do you have anything else to comment on, Mr. Early?
Nope, Mr. Stokes covered it.
All righty. Okay, consider approval of FRC budget amendment. Have a motion or a recommendation first?
I recommend we approve both. I'll go ahead and say both N and O, the FRC and YSC budget amendments.
All right. Heard the recommendation to take care of both budget amendments. Do you hear a motion?
I'll make that motion that we approve both the FRC and the SSC budget amendments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Riggs. Have a
I'll
second?
second that, Mrs. Sutton.
Okay, Ms. Sutton, thank you. No other discussion. I'll signify by saying yes, please.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, 5-0 again. And the next thing would be, unless someone else has something else to say right now, if you don't, want to have someone make a motion to close session to conduct preliminary discussion relating to the evaluation of superintendent. Pursuant to KRS 61-810, 1F and KRS 156.557, 6C. Do I have someone make a recommendation or make a motion?
Mr. Wendell, I'd like to make that recommendation, but before I do, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank our principals. I know a lot of them have tuned in today into the month, and I also know that this will be the last official board meeting that Ms. Howard participates in. I want to appreciate all that she's done for our kids over the years and what she has continued to do as an administrator. That we'll hate to see her go, but again, all of our administrators work hard. We're very proud of you, and we hate to see one of you go, but we wish you best luck and good luck in the future. Thanks, Ms. Howard.
I think most all of us could say that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I second that we go into closed session.
Okay. Motion made going by Mr. Riggs and second by Ms. Bumpus to go into closed session. All signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. This meeting is closed for the moment. to come back into order?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Miller. Mr.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Bumpus, thank you. All right, back in and had evaluation of superintendent, and I think our findings was he's doing an excellent job, and especially with all the different obstacles we've had the last year, and appreciate what he's doing on it. I guess that's all we have to say on it. We came back in session now. I'm sorry, this is new to me on this. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Reed? Second by
Ms. Sutton.
Ms. Sutton. All right, all in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? No. All right, thank you.
Wendell, can you hear me?